Good evening. This is the March 6, 2024 Seminole County Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This board is a 7-member board appointed by the Board of County Commissioners. A quorum has been established to hold tonight's meeting. Public hearing items acted upon by this board are referred to the Board of County Commissioners for further consideration. Board members present tonight, in order from my left to right, are going to be Commissioner Lourdes Aguirre, Commissioner Tim Smith, Commissioner Michael Lawrence, myself, Chairman Dan Lopez, Commissioner Richard German, and Commissioner Brandy Iapola. Staff present tonight are Jose Gomez, Chief Administrator, County Manager's Office, Rebecca Hammock, Development Services Director, Dale Hall, Planning and Development Manager, Nisa Bokert, Deputy County Attorney, Vladimir Simonovsky, Development Review Engineering Manager, Joy Giles, Principal Planner, and Tammy Brushwood, P&Z Board Clerk. Tonight's meeting will go as follows. Staff will introduce the item. The applicant will present the item. Audience members wishing to speak will then be heard. Please complete a comment card and give it to the clerk if you wish to speak. Comment cards are located in the lobby. Speakers should restrict their comments to information directly related to the item being heard. Audience speakers will have 3 minutes to speak, or 6 minutes if you're representing a group. When called, speakers should approach the microphone providing their name and address for the record. The board may ask questions of the speaker. After all speakers have been heard, public comment will be closed. The applicant will be given a chance for rebuttal. Any items shown, such as videos, presentations, pictures, or maps, must be left with the clerk for the public record. Items shown from electronic devices should be emailed to the clerk. A motion will be made and seconded. Board discussion may occur and conclude with a vote, and I will request a roll call vote for any split votes. First item on the agenda is the approval of the proof of publication. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next, we have the approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Next on the agenda is going to be the public hearing items. The first one is going to be the Santa Ana RV Storage Small-Scale Furniture Land Use Map Amendment and Rezone. Joyce Giles presenting.
Good evening. Joy Giles, Principal Planner for the Planning and Development Division. The applicant is requesting approval of the Santa Ana RV Storage Small-Scale Future Land Use Map Amendment from low-density residential to industrial and rezone from A1 agriculture to C3 general commercial and wholesale on approximately 1 acre located on the west side of Matthews Road, approximately 600 feet north of Hillview Drive. The purpose of the request is to incorporate the 1 acre parcel into the existing outdoor storage site adjacent on the north, south, east, and west. The previously approved development, known as the Adult Toy Storage Facility, permits those uses permitted under the C3 General Commercial and Wholesale zoning classification and the M1A Very Light Industrial zoning classification, including outdoor storage. The applicant proposes to utilize the 1 acre parcel for additional storage. The requested industrial future land use allows a maximum floor area ratio of 0.65 and permits the requested C3 zoning classification. As previously stated, the property is surrounded by the adult toy storage development with approved access points from Hillview Drive and Matthews Road. Staff finds the requested land use amendment and rezone to be consistent with the comprehensive plan and compatible with the surrounding trend of development in the area. Heavy commercial and industrial uses have been established on the properties adjacent to the north, south, east, and west since 1999. Therefore, staff recommends that the Board of County Commissioners adopt the ordinance enacting a small-scale future land use map amendment from low-density residential to industrial, and adopt the associated ordinance enacting a rezone from A1 to C3 as requested. Thank you.
Any questions of Joy? Is the applicant present?
Chad Moorhead with Madden Moorhead and Stokes, 431 East Horatio Avenue. Here to answer any questions. We agree with staff. We've referred to this parcel as a donut hole for a long time, and we were finally able to acquire it and incorporate it into the rest of the site.
All right, any questions from the board for the applicant? Seeing none, are there any audience members wishing to speak on the matter? We didn't receive any comment cards, so we're going to assume there is none. All right, so we will close public comment. Any discussion from the board on the matter? If no discussion, anybody interested in making a motion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'll request the Board of County, or approve the Board of County Commissioners adopt the ordinance enacting a small-scale future land use amendment from low-density residential to industrial, and adopt the ordinance enacting a rezone from A1 agricultural to C3 general commercial and wholesale on approximately 1 acre located on the west side of Matthews Road, approximately 600 feet north of Hillview Drive.
Second.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none. All right, moving on to item number 2 on the agenda, the Reagan Center PD Major Amendment Rezone. Joy Giles presenting.
Forgive me. Yes, the applicant is requesting approval of the Reagan Center PD Major Amendment Rezone from PD Plan Development to PD Plan Development on approximately 110 acres located on the east side of U.S. Highway 1792 north of County Home Road. The applicant proposes to construct a mixed-use development on 110 acres with entitlements for general, commercial, and retail uses consistent with C1 and C2, including but not limited to general commercial uses, professional and medical office, and multifamily residential. The PD proposes a maximum floor area ratio of 0.95 and multifamily residential density of 25 dwelling units per net buildable acre for a maximum of 1,003 dwelling units. In December of 2018, the Board of County Commissioners approved the Parkside Place PD rezone on the subject site. However, subsequent applications for the development approval were not submitted, and the PD entitlements have since expired. The Reagan Center PD proposes a less intense FAR and density than the previously approved Parkside Place PD, which allowed a maximum FAR of 1.25 with a maximum density of 85 dwelling units per net buildable acre. The comparison between the current request and the previously approved entitlements are shown in the entitlements comparison table in your addenda package. The PD proposes 4 developable tracts and a 35-acre tract designated as passive recreation, open space, and wetland conservation. Multifamily residential will be developed solely on Tract 2 and shall be developed in 3 phases. The remaining 3 developable tracts in the PD will consist of general commercial, retail, and office uses and may be developed independently from the multifamily phases. A trip conversion matrix has been included in the development order, allowing for the conversion of uses between tracts, as long as the total number of project trips are not exceeded. However, as previously stated, the multifamily units are developed solely on Tract 2, and no additional residential units may be added through the trip conversion matrix. The site is located within the Seminole County Utilities Service Area and is required to connect to public utilities. Due to the intensity of the project, water and wastewater system capacity improvements are anticipated. Therefore, a separate utility agreement will be required for the design and construction of all improvements. The total costs associated with the water and wastewater system improvements shall be funded via proportionate share contribution by the developer of 45% for water and 46% for wastewater. The development will access onto Ronald Reagan Boulevard and U.S. Highway 1792. A traffic impact analysis will be required at final engineering review for each phase of development. The TIA will determine any off-site improvements required in the county right-of-way and will also evaluate internal vehicular cross-access needed to facilitate each phase's internal access to adjacent land uses. However, Track 3 will access solely from Ronald Reagan Boulevard and will not have internal vehicular access to the remaining tracks in the PD due to the existing wetlands and floodplain. Oops, forgive me. The site is located within the Lake Jesup drainage basin, which has limited downstream capacity. Therefore, the site's design will be required to hold water quality and not exceed the pre-development rate and volume for the 25-year, 24-hour storm events. Staff has evaluated the proposed development for consistency with the comprehensive plan and land development code. The proposed development supports the objectives of the PD zoning designation in that it provides the minimum required 25% open space, perimeter buffers, and a maximum building height, as well as defined permitted uses with maximum intensity. The development will provide vehicular interconnectivity between tracks and uses to promote a well-connected internal vehicular network, as well as pedestrian circulation, giving access to all portions of the development as the track and phases are constructed. The developer will provide the construction of one bus shelter located on the east side of U.S. Highway 1792, just north of Senator Lane. At each phase of development, the project will be evaluated for impacts to traffic and utilities to determine required improvements. Staff finds the proposed development to be consistent with the comprehensive plan and land development code, with a mix of uses that are compatible with the high-intensity nature of the U.S. Highway 1792 corridor. In compliance with the Seminole County Land Development Code, the applicant conducted a community meeting on December 6, 2023, and the details of that meeting are included in your agenda package. Staff requests that the Board of County Commissioners adopt the ordinance enacting a rezone from PD to PD and approve the associated development order and master development plan as requested. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any questions from the board for?
I do.
Go ahead.
Joy, tell me what residential can be put on Tract 1?
No residential on Tract 1. The only residential permitted is multifamily on Tract 2.
That's not what it says in your development order. I can put senior living.
Oh, forgive me. Yes, assisted living, senior and assisted and independent living may be available to go on Tracts 1.
So I could put residential on Tract 1.
Yes, forgive me.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board for Steph?
Chairman.
Was there a traffic study included in this application, Joy?
Yes, there was.
Okay. And was that based on 1,003 units?
It was.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? I'm good. Yeah. Anybody else from the board? All right. Will the applicant?
Chairman,
Oh, yes.
down here, yeah. If I may, real quick, I believe you all received the memo from Ms. Giles on March 5th with the updated
Yes.
level of service and capacity memo. Our office prepared some attachments, the updated development order, the updated master site plan. Ms. Giles, would you like to insert those items into the record?
Yes, I will.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure they were included with the record of the case.
Thank you for reminding me of
Thank you.
that.
All right, is the applicant present?
Hi.
Hi, good
Randy
evening.
Morris, RM Strategies, representing the applicant, and we'll be doing a presentation that will include both a presentation by our engineer, planner and engineer, who will go through a little bit more detail than you just saw on the actual site plan and on the uses. Two, you'll also be hearing from the multifamily developer, Integra, who will show you typically what they build and have built around the county and their intentions for this project. But we also have a traffic engineer here, also Mr. German, for any discussion or conversation you'd like to have there. So with us tonight is Dave McDaniel of Integra, that's a family-owned business out of Heathrow. They've built multiple multifamily units all around the region, southeast region, and Florida, and local. Dustin Brinkman from KBM Franklin, it's our engineering and land planning firm. We're also working with Robbie Moon there. Some of you may know him. And then Mohammed Abdallah, who's our PE and from Traffic Mobility Consultants. You probably have seen him before. The history of this is real simple. This project started as Flea World, that some of you all may remember and fondly remember. Many people attended that place. It was the largest indoor flea world in the United States at one point. It was owned by Mr. Sid Levy. And the original presentation before this board was, I believe, in 2014, 2015, late that year. And then went to the BCC, and that closed Flea World and started a proposal for mixed use. This was one of the Seminole County's BCC's 3 targeted redevelopment areas in the whole county. It was one of what the big 3 were. And this is the largest redevelopment in the county in the last 30 years of any kind, because it goes to 110 acres, of which a significant portion is being preserved in perpetuity. The original proposal in 2015 languished, and then Mr. Levy passed away. He deeded this land to Boys and Girls Club, and not deeded it, excuse me, he willed it in its estate to Boys and Girls Club. What ensued then was, after his death, was some litigation and some other issues. So the initial approval that you all had for the mixed-use development, which was a partnership then with the county, actually there were a series of parts of that DO that were partnerships, and then leading to additional agreements were supposed to occur that didn't occur, no fault of the counties because of what occurred. And then, so that fell apart, and then the trustees took over, and then a second proposal came forward during the trustees. That second proposal was 5 times larger than the original proposal that we did. And that's by FAR, that's by density, that's by the multifamily, that's by every calculation you can do, including the effect on schools, including the effect on traffic. So eventually Boys and Girls Club got back possession of the property. That's how I'm here. Integra, they put it to bid with 9 different developers. I believe 9 responded. And Integra was the one that won that to take this project forward. Integra only doing the multifamily, Boys and Girls Club would continue to do those uses that you see to the northern side. And those uses are all defined in the DO. We do not have a site plan for them because that's just, it's a PD rezoning here. It's not site plan for them in terms of just showing the future use. So, and this proposal you have before you is remarkably similar to the original proposal that we had in 2015. The densities are almost the same. The uses are virtually the same. The heights are a little lower, though. And the number of apartment and multifamily is slightly higher than the original proposal that you approved, but the commercial is actually less. So it kind of balances there in terms of traffic and density and use. So in terms of how we got here, we also have been working on a development order of which you just, the county attorney just referred to that change. That change we saw too in real time as you saw. We had worked out a DO that we thought was very workable and had agreed and really compliment staff for their good work on it and management for their good work on it also. The part that we did not have an agreement with and would be a separate agreement, separate from any zoning, and this is real important to understand, is the utility portion. That's not a zoning issue, that's an infrastructure issue. And we simply are not in concurrence with that part of the DO. But that's fine, because we're still going to be working with staff to come up with a utility agreement that would operate through the DO, would operate in terms of what future activity has to occur, what we would have to do on off-site improvements, and how on-site we would coordinate with the county. So that part of the agreement, we like everything we're seeing in the DO. It's been a really good workout, with the exception of that. And then in the coming weeks, before we get to the county commission, we'll be dealing with the utility issue. We will not be discussing a utility issue with you all tonight, because we don't have the background to do that. We need more information from the county that we can examine first before we can speak intelligently to that issue. We anticipate all this to occur in the next couple of weeks. I think you can verify this when you talk to staff. Any questions on how we got here and the quick move I made into the development order?
Any questions from the board?
Are you done, Randy?
I'm done with my portion, yes, sir, and then we'll be calling up for some discussion from Dustin, who will discuss the actual site plan and uses.
My only comment is, this deal's bounced around for a long time. Been around the county for a while with
2015, yes, sir.
Yeah, with the death of then potential development and so forth and so on. And I've heard a lot of things about the vision that a lot of the commissioners and other people in the county had for this site, okay? Do you think you're achieving the vision for this site that maybe was, I thought the vision was for a lot more mixed use. And by the way, your developer is one quality apartment developer. I recognize that, but they're not necessarily commercial. So I don't know how you answer, is this really going to be satisfying the vision of a really great mixed-use project?
I believe it does, and we'll see what comes forward. We're in a unique area here. You've really got a three-legged stool going on in development that should be a good catalyst for 1792, which, as you know, is an underdeveloped area and somewhat substandard compared to many other parts of the county. Quite frankly, the 1792, we're talking about the commercial corridor aspect. So the three-legged stool I'm referring to is obviously what the county is doing at 5 Points with the government center, which has been far longer delayed than anything to do with Flea World Reagan Center. That's been a 30-year project in the making that just drags and drags and drags in terms of the county moving their facilities there and be more centrally located. So with that, though, the second leg of the stool is Seminole Community College, or Seminole State College now, and then we being the commercial aspect next to that, supplying housing and supplying mixed use. It's about a 50-50 ratio, Mr. German, which is pretty good, and that's actually what the county has looked for in many of the HIP areas over in Heathrow, is that ratio. So that ratio comes in. What uses come in because of the economy relative to commercial or office, I can't tell you. And by the way, it's important for you to understand that Integra is not developing the rest of the project. It will be a Boys and Girls Club will develop the rest of the project. Will they bring in a master developer? I can't tell you that. We're here for a zoning hearing. I can't give you the economic implications of what they would do in not having by doing it piecemeal or having a master developer. Those are decisions that they would make, and the market-driven economy will drive this. We can tell you what the multifamily will look like, and we're doing one phase at a time, and it's phased in 3 phases.
So the applicant is only going to develop track 2?
Correct, yeah, and they're doing the first phase, and he can discuss that when he comes up, what that would look like.
Okay. So we don't know about the other tracks?
No, we know what the uses would be,
Yep.
and we know approximately, we have some approximations. The other thing that's important to know here is that it is an integrated development in that. Look closely at the DO. You're seeing some things in this DO you haven't seen in any other DO before you. You're seeing dark skies. You're seeing a wayfinding, pedestrian wayfinding area that will not just encompass the apartment, or the multifamily, the apartments, but also incorporate the commercial. That wayfinding, pedestrian wayfinding. Also a traffic wayfinding. And a connectivity to all of these, both by pedestrians. All sections will connect by pedestrians pedestrian access and have a design master lake, basically, that will have that effect right next to the preserved wetlands, which is 38, approximately 30 acres, that will also have a park. That these are things you don't see. So, I think that, Mr. Chairman, and I know where you're headed in your question, I think that will integrate part of the concept of this type of use. I think we're doing some innovative things with it that the county code did not require and we did not have to do. But and then we think we helped actually drive some of the changes that you recently made in the code, because our negotiations with the county have been going on for some time. So, and I think if you ask staff what I'm saying, I don't want to represent what they believe, I think you're going to get the same answer from them. So with that, I call Mr. McDaniel from Integra, and he will give you I'm sorry, not Mr. McDaniel first. I'm sorry, we'll call up Dustin Brinkman from KBM Franklin, who will go over a little bit more in detail the ingress, egress on the plan.
Good afternoon, Chairman, board members. Dustin Brinkman with KPM Franklin, 6300 Hazeltine National Drive, Suite 118, Orlando 32822. With KPM Franklin, as Randy said, we are the civil engineering firm facilitating the applicant on the project, and we prepared this master development plan that you're looking at here on the big screen right now. Bear with me as I kind of slouch over and try my best to talk about the plan here. So I'm just going to run around kind of counterclockwise and just kind of circle some of these tracks, since it's kind of tough to read here. But as Joy had covered, we're working with approximately 110.13 acres of overall planned development property here. Circling right here, Tract 1, which is intended for a commercial blend of uses, more precisely, focusing around the standard retail, professional office, medical office uses. Again, as Randy noted, those are up in there, but we're keeping that very flexible for the future development. And then moving on to the tract number 2 here, composing of approximately 41 acres. And this is what we're primarily focusing on, as Randy had mentioned, for the development of a multi-phased, multifamily apartment complex. And I'll let David kind of speak more to his product and what they typically develop. They present a very nice product, and you can go into detail on that, but just kind of allocating the areas here in terms of primary access. There's an existing full access median cut on Ronald Reagan and Glanmore Way there. And then further up the way to the east is a full access median cut on Ronald Reagan and Hester. And then further to the west at Red Pine Way, there's an existing bidirectional median cut right there, which we would ultimately intend for that access point to remain in its current place, or that could potentially be adjusted, but most likely utilizing that bidirectional access to the site right there as well. That would be the primary points of access to Tract 2. And just to touch back when I was referring to access points to Tract 1, primary access would be provided at the existing traffic signal, across from Senator Lane and US 192 here, with a right in and a right out up here at the far northwest corner of Tract 1. So then going around here to tract number 5, which consists of approximately 3.16 acres. That would be primarily intended for, your standard commercial retail uses, with some alternative options such as, potential daycare, assisted living facilities, which are options within that, but pretty much focusing on the C1 uses per standard zoning district definitions.
Can you point to track 5 again, please?
Yeah, track 5 is right here.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
And then jumping over to the far east tract, that's comprised of approximately 1.93 acres. And on the MDP here, we're noting that as commercial retail as well. Actually, it's restricted neighborhood commercial uses primarily for, some uses such as daycare facilities, assisted living facilities, with the primary access at the only logical point, which would be, the single access point off of Ronald Reagan. And then, last but not least, there's the final allotment of the property, which is comprised of a conservation easement along with the wetlands, which would remain in its current existence, would not be modified in its entirety within that region. That would be utilized as a 50% pro rata share across the property for open spaces that would, be utilized for recreational area as well. So that's pretty much a summary of the site, the tracks, the areas. Is there any particular questions that anyone has just in regards to the site in general that you might be able to shed some light on?
Do you have any conceptual master plans for any of these parcels? Just to see. I recognize that's not on the agenda tonight, but when you call this a master plan, I call it a bubble plan, but do you have anything we can see that you've developed? Density studies or otherwise?
Yeah. Well, nothing here with us right now, but we've only been working on, very high-level conceptual layouts on the multifamily, not the master development plan as a whole.
Any other questions from the board for the applicant?
Yeah, I have a question. On the entitlements comparison table that I'm looking at, it states that there's 25 acres set aside for multifamily, but you mentioned something about 41 acres. I'm just trying to figure out is it 41 or 25?
Yeah, the tract 2 is allotted for 41 acres, and it's actually 25 dwelling units per acre is the proposed density.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Dave McDaniel from Integra will get up and give a presentation on actually what the multifamily will look like.
Good evening, everybody. David McDaniel, 3748 Farmvale Place in Lake Mary. I'll be brief. Basically, we are a family company that's been operating in Lake Mary since 2006. I've got a 38-year background in multifamily housing, primarily focused in the Southeast United States. We've done quite a bit of work throughout Central Florida and over to Tampa and up to Jacksonville. If you're familiar with some of the work that we've done, we do try to brand our projects with an Integra name just to make it familiar with mostly residents and institutional investors. Recently, we built Integra 360 over in Winter Springs. We did Integra Lakes down in Castleberry. We did Integra Crossings in Seminole County, our most recent project. We would very much look forward to developing this site for our next multifamily in Seminole County. I've been driving by the flea market, and like everybody who's lived here a while has seen the flea market forever, always wondered what that site was going to end up with, and here we are standing, talking about it. So I'm excited to have that opportunity. I think, Commissioner Jeremy, to answer your question on the mixed-use aspect, and I get that question asked a lot, and like the city of Castleberry, which we rezoned that a number of years ago, there was a big push from the commission to do a integrated mixed-use project, and it's very difficult to do a vertically mixed-use project and make it economic. If you can, there are very few examples of.
I was not referring to, I recognize that a vertical mixed-use project, forget it. I
Okay.
wouldn't even talk about that.
Okay, well, that's why I
That's
kind
not
of
what-
interpret your question.
That's not what I
about.
was referring to.
Okay, so getting to that, if we're off the vertical mixed use, then I really agree with Randy. I think the mixed use, the horizontal mixed use is what I call it, that we have out there, and the mixes of uses, I think is, Dustin and Randy laid it out fairly well on how we're incorporating that all into the site. And we are incorporating interconnectivity sidewalks. We'll probably have some bike lanes of some sort, and all of the roads are interconnected. Our project, multifamily projects, will not be gated, so you'll be able to drive through and sort of interact with everybody. And as I said, we don't really know what's going to be north of us on the commercial parcels, but I think we hopefully are an incubator for that. If we have residential housing units there, hopefully there's some retail that comes along on 1792, and then there's a nice undeveloped large parcel for medical office, some other commercial, and we would very much look forward to that. We've been working closely with the Boys and Girls Club because, as Randy said, we're working on the multifamily side. They're still going to own the property for the commercial, and we want to make sure that this DO reflects some of their future hopes and dreams of what that property is going to be. So they've been involved in the background on the development order and everything that we've been working on. So we're trying to create as much flexibility as we can for them, at the same time promote what we're trying to do is develop the multifamily there. As far as the master plan goes, we have worked on a conceptual multifamily project. We don't have it with us. I didn't think to bring it with me tonight, but it is very conceptual. But if you look at the 40 acres that are on there, the far left side on the western property of Tract 2, that would be our first phase. Right now we're contemplating about 322 units in that first phase. It'll be a standalone
That's
project.
this area right here.
South of that, Randy.
Yeah, right there, I'm sorry.
Yes.
There.
Phase 2 would be basically where the red circle is, and Phase 3 would be further over to the right. And we would do that sequentially. What we don't want to do is build too many units at one time, and we want to lease them, have it be successful and stabilized, and then we can do a second phase if the market warrants that. The project itself will have its own retention pond. I think in the DO we're required to have a fountain in there, have interconnected sidewalks and a path around the lake. So it's going to be a very nice environment. And I encourage you, if you have not been out to Integra Crossings in Seminole County, that one is probably would be a good example of what we would look to do here. We always like to do something a little bit different, but there would be some similarities. I did bring a couple photos, past projects, just to kind of give you an idea. They're kind of hard to see. Will they show up on there?
She's a genius.
Okay. So this one is Integra Station, which we did down in Melbourne. That's the back of the clubhouse. And you can see the overall degree of detail that we try to put into it, and the ambiance with lighting and all the amenities that are back there. This is that's the Integra Crossings project that I mentioned earlier. So we have the clubhouse in the front, which is, can't really see, you just see the roof, but we've got two major lakes in the middle of it, and the property kind of rings the lakes. You can see the sidewalk that goes all around it. There's a very, very large dog park that's there that we've got an AstroTurf. It's everything, nice for the dogs. But our amenities are a very high level and commensurate with a level of rents that we try to achieve for our project and the quality that we try to develop. And then lastly, this is the elevation of the Integra Station project. And coincidentally, we just happened to be taking the picture with the space shuttle going off in the background. So it was kind of a cool picture. So, and then, let me just show, this is the interior of one of our clubhouses. And again, you can see the attention to detail that we try to provide for our residents that are out there. So if you have any other questions about our product or what we're looking to do, then available to answer.
Typical kitchen. Yeah, and the other thing is that in terms of this pedestrian paths that would run throughout the multifamily development and then also run over to the commercial development. Those would have benches along the way. Look closely at that development order. You can begin to see how this amenity package stretches from the apartment. Also, very important to note here is that this is a market rate rental property. At market rate, currently rental property, and the current rental rates that they are charging for this, the last time I calculated, you have to be careful on the calculations because months have gone by since we've, you look at this and what's happening with inflation and so on. But over 95% of those people that would be paying for that would qualify under workforce housing for this project. So again, back to the earlier question of how does this integrate with a development, a mixed-use development on 1792, you all need workforce housing. It's a shortage, we all know it, and the workforce housing here will fulfill a significant shortage both for that would happen at the college and at the Five Points development. Additionally, one other thing that this multifamily will have is a number of garages. I don't know the exact count of garages, but we're not sure yet. But it will have garages, and the percentage of garages, they'll all be covered with electric themselves and electrical power themselves, not just a lighting unit when you pull in. And that will allow a Prius-type vehicle or a hybrid-type vehicle to be recharged in there. That's another feature that you've not done in one of your apartments before here, which we're offering. And we were happy to put that in the development order also. So with that, we now will put because in our community meeting, there were two kind of themes that we had great attendance from the neighbors, and they stayed the full time for the entire meeting, and I think we had pretty good interaction on the questions. A lot of the focus on that was safety, crime, traffic, and oh, by the way, what are these multifamilies going to look like? What are we getting as neighbors? And so traffic being one of concern, as it is on every development issue you all deal with, and traffic being particularly concerned not on 1792 but on Reagan. So we do have Mohammed here, and he is happy to answer any questions you have on that. And then our presentation we finished, we'd ask that Mr. Chairman, Mr. Lopez, if you would allow us to, after the public participation, if we can come back up and respond to any comments that they had made or any clarifications that you all may need. So if you have any questions for Mohammed, and then we'll sit down.
I have a question in regards to the units. So do you have an idea on the size range of the units? How many, minimum number of bedrooms and bathrooms and such?
I don't have the exact number, but typically we'll do, if it's just say a 300-unit project, we'll do roughly 45% one bedrooms, 45% two bedrooms, and roughly 10% three bedrooms. The one bedrooms will run from 650 square feet up to maybe 800 square feet. Two bedrooms will be about 1,100 square feet, maybe 1,050. And the three bedrooms will be pushing 1,200 square feet or a little bit higher.
Okay. And it caps out at 3-bedroom units?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Any other questions from the board?
Can you give us an overview of the points of egress and the traffic? Just an oversight on how you're going to deal with that and how you're going to deal with signal studies before we get started with public. I know that's a concern looking at the notes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Mohammed Abdallah, Traffic and Mobility Consultants, 3101 McGuire Boulevard, Orlando, 32803. So the points of, I don't know if we can put a plan up there, but basically the points of egress essentially align with current median openings on Ronald Reagan Boulevard for the most part. So at Hester, at Thomas, whatever that road is called, but there's a median opening right there in between, and it's actually called Red Pine. Sorry. at Red Pine and at Hester on Ronald Reagan. There's also a couple of potential right-in, right-outs or directional access. Oh, okay, we see it there, so that's better. Let me move. All right, here we are. So we're looking at one connection right here at Red Pine, which is currently directional, probably remain as such. We're looking at another connection at, I think it's called Red Pine here, but I think they're calling it Glamour.
Glenmore is that one.
Glamour Way, right? And then at Hester. Connection to US 1792, we're looking at the Senator Lane intersection, which was always planned to be a four-leg intersection. The connection's there, so we'd just be tying into that an additional right-in, right-out further to the north to serve the commercial areas. So the access plan is similar to what you had seen before, and we've evaluated at a high level currently to make sure it works, and it does. Further on, as we get further into the development and get more deeper into the engineering, and as you heard Joy mention that we'd be doing traffic studies at every step, we have committed to looking at the full median openings and evaluate them for potential signals. We anticipate that Hester is probably the likely location where a signal might be warranted some point in the future. On Ronald Reagan, obviously the one at Senator Lane will just be tied into and make sure that it operates with the new connection.
And will you add any traffic lanes? I noticed there was a lane you needed to add for a U-turn in the study. There was a lane that you needed to add for a U-turn, is that?
Yeah, so there is...
Again, just an overview of how you anticipate this is going to go. I know
No,
we're going to get
absolutely.
questions.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate the question. So yes, at County Home Road, there might be a need if we are coming in at Red Pine and connecting there might be a need for a U-turn to allow traffic coming out of that first phase on Ronald Reagan that wants to head back towards the east to make the U-turn at County Home Road. So that would be something that would be evaluated, and if there's no other connection at that time, that would be the way to move. So we have to make allowance for traffic heading east to be able to get east, and that would be either the U-turn or another connection somewhere else.
Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you.
All right, any other questions from the board? All right, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you all.
We'll go ahead and open it up for public comment. Anybody who wishes to speak, please fill out a comment card. You'll find those in the lobby. I have one comment card here from Adam, and help me out here. Is it Jockman? Jackson. Okay, I'm sorry. If you can come on up, sir. When you come up to the mic, please state your name and address for the record. And if you would, put 3 minutes on the clock for his time. Thanks.
Hello, my name's Adam Jackson. I live at 5114 Sunnyside Avenue, Sanford, Florida, 32773. I received 200 new neighbors with the addition of Cadence Park and Cadence Park 2, so the traffic has greatly increased. It's ridiculous trying to get out on Ronald Reagan now. The only access point from Cadence Park is Red Pine Way, and then they have to go down and make a U-turn around by a bend where you can't see any of the oncoming traffic, which makes it really hazardous, and there's been several accidents there. I'm concerned about the access points for this, dumping all those residential people onto Ronald Reagan without having better traffic control. 1792 set up to handle more traffic than Ronald Reagan is. County Home Road would be a wonderful place to let some traffic out too. I know I'm going to get more neighbors out there, and that's just part of the course. I'm just concerned about the traffic right now because the noise is atrocious. I hear cars racing up and down the road 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and there's nothing to slow them down. I know our officers can only do so much, but this is my concern. I've had this property for almost 10 years now, and I've seen a lot of changes coming, and I'd like to see some positive changes with traffic. That's all I have for now.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Anybody else from the public wish to speak on the matter? Yes, sir, come on up. Please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, good afternoon, or good evening. My name is Jack Wayne. I live at 224 Flamingo Drive. Please excuse me, I don't do this for a living. I'm one of the few in here that aren't getting paid, so excuse me, I'm not as informed, but I'm getting there. I spoke earlier, I believe it was called on the Bradbury project for a rezoning thing. I realized soon that that was more of, informative rather than everything else, but two things. One is drainage. Mr. Randy here mentioned, that the, well, maybe he did, maybe he didn't, but I know that Lake Minnie currently drains behind my house under 427 and then into Lake Jessup. The gentleman mentioned that there would be drainage ponds on, I believe it's track 2, correct? 2 lakes, he called them. Lake Minnie's already draining into the park. There's a subterranean drainage field there that's flowing, and my backyard floods up. I've got more water in there this year, this time of year, than what I normally would, and last year the storms. I understand that we got to build. I get it. The gentleman mentioned rather than having buildings that are taller, they're going to be shorter, but they're going to have more people. That just tells me there's going to be more buildings, so less places for the water to get into the ground. You keep building things, places water can't get into. It's got to go someplace. I get it. I'm just concerned with those things. Maybe that's another meeting. Maybe that's another discussion. I don't know. But also, too, I have a question as far as the perimeter walking area. There's been a problem in the past and currently also with the homeless camps. And they're getting ran into our neighborhoods and into our communities. I have no question that this is not good. This is just going to continue to move them. They're going to move and get into, right now there's homeless camps. There were before they put fences up a couple of months ago. But like I said, I understand they got to build, and I understand that Randy is going to work his team and his magic, and it's going to happen. I get it. I'm a little fish in a big pond, but I got a voice. I live there. My dad lived there. I want to keep living there. I worked for the county for almost 20 years, and I'm going to do another 15. And I want to retire there. I don't want to have to swim in my yard. So thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else wishing to speak on the matter? Come on up.
After she speaks, she can do it.
And if you would, just state your name and address for the record.
It's Tally Sinclair. I live at 603 Driver Avenue, Winter Park, Florida, 32789. So the gentleman that y'all just talked to, he lives on Flamingo. This is the Boys and Girls Club right here. And this is what we own. We own everything on Flamingo behind all these neighbors. We also own all the wetlands adjoining the Boys and Girls Club property. And, sorry, Chad?
Yes, ma'am.
No. Dustin. Dustin, got his name way wrong. I guess my concern is the same as the gentleman that just came up here. I don't know if y'all have ever been out there. It's wet. When it's dry, it's wet. And I guess the concern is when the Boys and Girls Club build here, and I know this is supposed to be left as wetlands, but with the development of the tract 5, if y'all see the map right here where there's already exactly what the gentleman that was up here just said, where's that water going? So if you tear all that down, bring loads of dirt in, build it up, that's great. We own real estate companies in 3 states, and my husband's a builder. We know how it works. That water's got to go somewhere. We personally don't have any opposition to this gentleman right here building his apartments or whatever, because this is already just looks like a bunch of dirt and asphalt. Our concern is that once you open the floodgates for the Boys and Girls Club and you allow them to come here and you allow them to come here, where's the restraint over here? That water's got to go somewhere. Where, I think more details, if the planner, if Dustin's got this, his firm has been paid by the Boys and Girls Club to present this as one project. I don't know that enough questions have been asked. I can tell you right now, because we own everything right here, this for sure will adversely affect us and every single one of these residents living on Flamingo. And you can see right here, hard to see, but we have sold some of the properties to the people on Flamingo. And when we were doing these sales, everyone's backyards are flooded right now. They're all flooded. I would appreciate more clarification on how exactly the water will be retained by the Boys and Girls Club from these wetlands that they're building up on, bringing dirt into. How will that water stay on their lot?
Thank you. Any other members of the public wishing to be heard?
Make
Come
sure
on
you
up, please.
fill out a card, man.
Please state your name and address. Go ahead.
Rachel Lane, 224 Flamingo Drive, Sanford, Florida. In addition to piggy off what she said as well, if we're looking at this map right here, again, more clarification and stuff like that, because I understand that we're only talking about, you know, the multi-use and stuff like that right now, but that also affects everything else that comes along with it. There's actually a creek that is right here, and that it does feed into, and again, that water, as we've already seen, especially with Ian, we're developing, we're bringing all these things in, we're building up, we're doing all these things, but we're not doing anything with the water. So this house that's been here, you know, because whenever the Sanford Airport was a Navy base, you know, these houses were built, they're small, they're whatever, and they can't handle all that water. Oh, sorry. So, and again, too, like with the traffic, I think that's a big one on Ronald Reagan. And I think that we've seen, especially the people that have lived here for a long period of time, even going from, you know, Ronald Reagan to 46, whereas in the past it took, you know, 10 minutes to get to 46. Now it takes a good 30 minutes, and you're getting backed up at 5 o'clock right there at Lake Mary Boulevard. And I see the same thing happening at 1792 and Ronald Reagan, as well as Hester is a very, 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 very dangerous intersection that doesn't have a light. So I guess it could potentially benefit from a light, but again, it's already heavily trafficked, and the homeless people are a problem. So, and that's just going to push them closer and closer to our backyard. So.
Can I get her rest of her minute?
Oh, no.
No?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Anybody else from the public wish to be heard? Go ahead, sir.
I'll fill out a yellow sheet for a minute.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is John Guy, G-U-Y. I live at 4852 Cliveden Boulevard, Cliveden Loop in Sanford. In fact, I'm right here in this development right here. I have two questions. There's a lift station that's on Fleetwood property that was put in at the time our development was built, and it serves our development. The county cannot tell me who owns that lift station. if we're going to tie in another 3,000 some people, I'd like to know who who owns that, that lift station that's on that property. I've been working with the Utilities Division, and they have not been able to confirm who owns that lift station, although I believe they maintain it. But I'm concerned, we have 66 units in that little development down here. We're going to tie 3,000 some people into it at some point. I'd like to know who I go to if there's a problem with any kind of workings with it or need a repair, et cetera. So that's one of the issues that I have, is clarification on who owns that lift station. And secondly, getting out at Glanmore Way, trying to make a left, is tough now. And you've got a lot of people who want to come out and go east. There's going to be a problem there. So those are my two issues. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other members of the public wish to be heard? Seeing none, we'll close public comments. I will give the applicant an opportunity to respond.
Sure. As I indicated, you hear stuff about traffic, which is what we always hear. The development order does cover traffic rather thoroughly and covers each phase that we go through, and Mohammed explained this to you also. Each phase that we go through will generate yet another continuation or another traffic study to show what impacts are occurring in real time, because we're not the only person adding traffic or only group adding traffic to Reagan. So that will be done. That would then trip a warrant, potentially a warrant study that potentially would lead to a signal at Hester. It potentially could lead in a warrant study to a signal at County Home Road. Those are the two logical places for signals, period. And really the other options would not make any sense on a traffic basis. And the county staff, we are in concurrence with them on exactly what that development order says and how that would be done, and that we would do a prop share on the cost of installing that traffic signal. Now, the other thing that's important to know is that if the county so wanted to put in traffic signals, they could do that right now, but a warrant study is not showing it to be necessary. What we can sympathize with those residents that live out there and what they see in real time too. But it's important to know also that when Flea World was here, it had a significant amount of traffic generator too. And that was closed down. So it was and Flea World was there for 38 years. So pre-existing condition to many of the neighbors that are there, not the long-term neighbors, not the multi-generational ones, but a lot of the newer ones too. So, and recall also that this PD, we're changing it. This is a rezoning from PD to PD. The PD we're changing it from was far more denser, with far more traffic and far more impact on everything, as I already discussed. I'm not going to go over that again with you. We're actually diminishing what had been approved. So with Mr. Jackson, his initial comments, and I do appreciate his comments very much. I think we're covering him as best we can, as best the code would call for. And also, we need our residents to be able to get out of there too, safely. So this is a concern as we look at phase one and phase two. This is 3 phases these multifamily would be built in. We're committed to one right now, and that's over on the 1792 side. And these are in tranches of about 330 plus units. So that's phase one, is the only thing that we're contemplating right now. But we're showing you what would look like at full build out if that were occurred. That would be over the next 6 to 10 years, those projects. In terms of the Mr. Jackson and then Jack, the second speaker, he spoke both to drainage, and the drainage seems to keep coming up. If I could just take you back in time, or if the county this did not come up as much during the community meeting, but now I can understand the concern clearly. This was a wholly, almost entirely paved area before Flea World was closed down, and the concrete was broken up and taken out. It was also on substandard standards that occurred that some of you would know, or staff can certainly inform you on, that this is before retention ponds were being used. This is before people with sheet flow right off the property. we can give an explanation to you on what I think you all are well aware of the process by which we go through with your county and St. John's. But let's, in terms of approval for our water management, stormwater management. But let's get through one thing that's real clear so that some of you all may know. 5 Points, the county's 5 Points, which is roughly the same size as this, maybe a little bit bigger actually. Its overflow goes across our property right now in storm drains and goes to the wetlands. We're not taking out the wetlands. We're preserving the wetlands in perpetuity. So those neighbors to the north that got up, I believe it was the third and fourth speakers, the two women, I'm sorry, I didn't catch their names, those properties to the north, the way the flow works through the wetlands, and this is a very highly treasured, valuable wetland that feeds to wetlands going to the east and southeast, not to the north. It goes to the southeast, the sheet flow, and goes into wetlands there, and ultimately makes it to Lake Jessup, which ultimately makes it to the St. Johns River. We're completely aware of this, and this is where the county's water is going right now. So that's one of the concomitant factors that we're dealing with, not to mention whatever we build, which will be now up to current standards and preservation, which we can go over those if you'd like, but I don't know if you all want to do that. And then the last gentleman who spoke, who discussed the 66 units, that 66-unit townhome development is 10 acres. That was part of the original DRI, or excuse me, the original PD development order that we did in 2015. That was the first phase that actually got built. The lift station, and the gentleman brought that up during the community meeting. We did extensive community meeting notes, such as that you almost never see, and there should be in your packet. And we actually covered that issue to let the county staff know, hey, there's still an issue out there about this lift station. I believe we own the lift station. The county was to take over the lift station. I don't know if it's been established yet, the ownership correctly. The county generally takes over these lift stations. If the county's policy is still that, we don't know anything. So we're as in the dark, but we're happy to turn that lift station over to the county if it makes them feel more comfortable, that HOA. That's the best answer I can give you on that. But I can also tell you that the amount of improvements and what's really holding this project up, and ultimately could stop this project, is the utility problem. The county does not have the utilities to service the property at this time, has to upgrade certain aspects of their utility system. The county itself is using Sanford's utilities for 5 Points, not their own utilities. So, but I can tell you that issue is easily resolvable on the ownership of the lift station. And we are happy to help that HOA in any way, because we actually birthed that HOA. We birthed that development out of the 2015 proposal. That's the best I can give on answers. I could call up Dustin, who could walk you through exactly the process by which our stormwater system is handled, the approval process that goes through, and how we have to retain the water on our property, and how the sheet flows work here. And I can't explain to you why some of those properties are flooding, because we're not developed there. We've actually stripped away the sheet flow, in some cases, from the hard concrete that was there from the flea world. So, and that wetlands is between us and those properties. So it's not us. But I'm sympathetic to the problem. Well, please. The last thing is that, I'm sorry I didn't cover this. The small acreage all the way over here that was discussed, which is adjacent to those homes, we deliberately did not make that commercial. That's a use that would be daycare or an alternative, one of the other uses in terms of an ALF, a small ALF or something like that. Daycare is needed in this area. And the issue there is you'd have a compatible use next to the homes instead of something more intense. And that would still have to have its own contained retention system too for that property. And those are the best answers I can give you. If you'd like, Dustin can get up and give you a complete explanation on what approval processes we have to go through, what's in consideration for retention. It's up to you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, any additional comments or questions from the board?
Yes, I
Whether it's
do.
of the applicant or the staff? Go ahead.
Yes, so I don't know if the original PD in 2015 was going to have all phases done simultaneously. However, knowing that you have now phases, the question is, are you considering any egress, regress through phase one to have emergency access from ambulances, fire department? Because since it's in phases, it's not going to matter. The impact will be an impact. I think it'll alleviate the concern of the neighbors if it comes in through 1792. And, you know, what originally perhaps was the plan if it was all developed at once. So is there any consideration for that?
There had never been a consideration of it all being developed at once. Just so you know. It would appear that way, but that wasn't the case. And if you read the original DOs, you won't see that. And we know this isn't all going to develop at once either, because the multifamily is phased over roughly what would be 6 to 10 years, as I said. Probably the out years being 10 being more correct in terms of by the time it would get CO'd. But the other phases, the commercial, office, and all that, could develop at the same time as phase one of our apartment. We don't know. But we do know one thing is that the public safety department and fire department, all of those issues, those are one of the most difficult things that a developer deals with in trying to come in compliance. And they're not weak sisters in terms of asking. I mean, it's a demand you have to do. Any developer will tell you that. And if they find it to be safe by the current standards, that's what we have to do. Is it Lourdes, by the way?
Yes, it is.
I love that name. Sorry.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the board? None. All right.
So we thank you. We thank the staff. We thank you for your time and attention on this matter. We obviously would very much like you to pass this favorably to the county commission, who we would be with, by the way, I think on the 26th, we would be with them. So to those members in the audience that are here, the 26th is when it would go of March before the board. And we will still be working with the staff on the utility issues between now and then. And are happy if any of the residents still would like further discussions or any discussions at all with our Mohammed, our traffic analyst, who's quite respected in the area, or with Dustin or any of his team at KPM Franklin. We're happy to chat with them. And perhaps, Rebecca, if I could say, if we could figure out this lift station thing, that would at least take one issue away. Because it'll probably come back up at the commission meeting too, if we can get that. And again, we thank staff for working with us so diligently on this project too.
All right, thank you very much for your time. All right, at this time, we'll open up discussion amongst the board. Any comments?
I'll go if nobody else is ready.
Right in.
I can't be in favor of this the way it's written, but I think we can get there. I mean, as I said earlier, this is a high-profile piece of property. If those of us that have been around here a long time, it was anticipated a lot of things nice could happen to this property, lifestyle and otherwise. Let's deal with what we got. We were brought before us probably one of the best developers of multifamily in Florida, if not in the southeast. Integra is absolute quality. So we got that on track too, in pretty good shape, I think. However, let's really look at this and say, all right, we got about 73 acres of developable land here. It's really what we got. 41 acres of it is residential, so we really got a residential deal here. I mean, when I talked about mixed use, I think the hope by a lot of people in the county, and otherwise would there be more, but there isn't. So now we have two developers. We have Integra, who I, again, think highly of, and we have the Boys and Girls Club. That's what we got. We might end up with some dollar stores or who knows what on these other tracks. So my proposal would be that I would like to change the requested action from where we're approving a master plan and call it a bubble plan. That way, it ties back to the track numbers and will tie back to the development order of what's allowed, but it doesn't approve anything else. And add to this that all site plans for each track must come back through the process. That gives the county some protection that maybe we'll end up with some of the things that we hoped for. In other words, if there's a site plan that comes through on track 1, comes back through the process. It'll come here and go to the commission for final approval of that site plan. Now that's what I could live with for this deal, not just a carte blanche the way they've written it, with really only one developer of credibility and not knowing anything about anything else of what we're going to end up with here. So, with that being said, I'll make a motion, unless somebody else go. You guys want to add some things, please. And then I'll make my motion. If you got anything else, anybody want to do anything?
Any additional comments?
As it sits, they would not have to come back through here for the different tracks.
For the individual tracks should come back
Just
through
to be
here.
clear. Yeah.
Staff, is that correct, staff?
That's correct.
So the code, the process that's established in the code for plan development rezonings does not require that step. If this is approved and the master development plan and the development order are approved, then that establishes the entitlements.
Rebecca, I'm not suggesting we approve the master plan. I'm suggesting we call it a bubble plan, which changes the whole thing.
But that's not the established.
With the qualification that each parcel has to be site planned and approved. Why can't we do that?
I mean, it would have to be a development order condition, but that's not.
That's what I'm
the
suggesting.
Established process in code.
So
I'm suggesting that as a development order condition, and if the developer or the applicant agrees, then that you got it.
Hello, Nasa Borker, Deputy County Attorney for the record. So the request comes as it comes to you. It can't be changed. The request itself can't be changed by the Planning and Zoning Board. That has to come from the applicant.
We're only a recommending body. I'm going to make this recommendation. The county commission's going to ultimately have to say, yeah, we'll amend the development order this way. I understand that.
I understand that you're the recommended body, and I understand the process quite well. What I'm saying is, if your motion is going to be that you want a condition in the development order that requires subsequent tracks to come back for site plan approval, is that what you would like?
Yes.
So is that the request that you're asking for?
Yes.
Okay, because there's not, to my knowledge, reference in the code of a bubble plan that doesn't exist. So I would definitely not recommend that you recommend something to the Board of County Commissioner that references a type of product or request or a map that doesn't exist in our code. Rebecca, so as far as the tracks go, do they come back to the Planning and Zoning Commission when they come in for site plan approval, or is that just a DRC staff level review?
For the record, Rebecca Hammock, Development Services Director. I think what Commissioner German is saying is for each tract, he would like a master development plan to have to come back to go back through the process. However, normally how this happens is this master development plan approves the entitlements for each tract, and then each tract comes through and does a final development plan and a developer's commitment agreement that's just done at administrative level by staff.
Understood, except we don't know what we're getting here, Rebecca. We're getting the Boys and Girls Club. I mean, hey, I'll approve track 2 tonight. I got no problem with that.
True. I mean, and ultimately, a lot of what's in the development order, and I think your recommendation obligates the Boys and Girls Club and any future buyers that they sell to the Boys and Girls Club.
I mean, technically, it obligates Integra too, but there'll be not a problem with them. They'll breeze on through. I recognize that. So, can I do that? If I can't call it a bubble plan, I'm happy to call it. I hate calling it a master plan because you guys call it master plans, but it's never a plan that we really know what it is. It is a bubble plan. But anyway, I'll call it the master plan, but can I add that provision? in my motion?
I mean, so from a legal
That
standpoint,
goes
what
in the
you're
development
asking is to add an additional layer of review
A condition in the
That-
development order
that doesn't already exist in your code, because what they would be coming in for is not required to come to you.
but if the applicant agrees in the development order, that takes care of it, doesn't it?
Conceivably, if the applicant agrees in the development order, as it's a negotiated
Well,
document.
they don't have to agree, but. yeah.
Conceivably, yes, but this is, so the plan development agreement, development order, the plan development, essentially, they're coming in and asking for something, and they're making up their own rules, essentially, of what's going to be on there.
Look, alls we have is a few sentences here of what may be on track one. That's not good enough for me because it's Boys and Girls Club, and we have no idea what they're going to run in on us, okay? And
Well, I mean, I think you have a really good idea.
I don't think
because
so. I think
the-
I have a couple sentences is all I got.
I mean, the tracks tell you what's going to be on those tracks. The traffic tells you how they're going to review the traffic. They've shown you their places of ingress and easement. There's going to be a community park around the retention pond, which is shown on the master plan. What you don't have is all those specific things maybe that you'd like to see, like what the architectural requirements are going to look like. But frankly, as far as your review goes for plan developments, that's not something that's within your purview to consider at this time. And I can go over the criteria of review for plan developments if you'd like me to. I'm happy to do that.
I don't really agree with you, but it's all right. That's normal for me, but that's okay.
It's normal for me too, being a lawyer. Nobody agrees with me.
But anyway, well, I can still make my motion. The board can either vote me down or we can go from there. Or
You can make your motion, yep.
otherwise, I'll make a motion to recommend denial, which I don't think the applicant would like either. Let me ask, can we ask the applicant a question?
Can we?
That's up to chair,
Yeah.
up to the board. If you'd like to bring the applicant back up, that's within your purview.
If the applicant's willing to come back up for a question, we would love to hear you.
We're here representing the PD, and my client is Integra. We also work closely with Boys and Girls Club, and they have a committee on this, of which some of whom are developers. And we are also concerned about what they will develop too on their property. But the process is, as Ms. Booker has said, you know, when you do zoning, you're doing zoning. It doesn't mean that everybody can just immediately dictate what kind of retail is going to go there.
I didn't do that.
And I understand, Mr. Chair. I'm trying to respond to the overall question. We can't answer for Boys and Girls Club what they would agree to do. Mr. Chairman, what you could do, if I could so boldly suggest this, you could ask your fellow board members if they would agree to make this recommendation to the board that they consider or enter into negotiation to allow for the first time a site plan to come back to your board for approval, a true site plan.
Well, I'll find out if I make that motion, so I guess.
Well, I know, but I'm suggesting you make it as a suggestion for the board to consider, and the board can consider what their policy, the county commission's policies are going to be. They're going to have a series of policy decisions to make later, which we've discussed earlier, on utilities and other matters. So we would have no objection at all if you wanted to suggest to the board that there's an action like this. However, in no way can we endorse it in that. Boys and Girls Club may reject it. I can't speak for them if that makes sense to you.
Thank you. I'll make my motion. I move we request the Board of County Commissioners adopt the ordinance enacting the rezoning from PD plan development to PD plan development and approve the associated development order and master plan on approximately 110 acres located on the east side of U.S. Highway 1792, approximately 550 feet north of County Home Road, and recommend to amend the development order to require all individual site plans for the development tracks come back through planning and zoning and county commission for approval.
We have a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
Second that.
We have a second. Did you get the entire motion? You did, excellent, good.
She always does.
I tried to, I didn't get it. Can you, any additional discussion from the board on the motion that on the table?
So if that puts it in front of the county commissioners as a recommendation, we're within our means, our bounds?
What?
And it's up to the county commission.
It's up to the county commission,
Taking the
always
next
is
step.
anyway.
But we have not held the process up.
No, we've not.
Okay.
All those in favor? You didn't ask that again. Sorry.
Sorry?
You didn't, all those in favor?
We're having a conversation, we're discussing.
We should have had this.
Any further
That's all I
discussion? Any further comments? No? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. That was interesting. Well done.
March 26th.
Yes, I think that's what it's.
We're not done.
Yes.
Yeah, we're not done. We still got to close out. That's right. We're not done.
We're not done yet. Sorry.
No. Yeah,
Excuse me, everyone, we still have to finish the meeting, so.
Yeah, we have not adjourned the meeting yet?
Excuse me, the meeting hasn't been adjourned, so please take your conversations outside or quiet down. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move into closing business. The managers or directors report. Dale or Rebecca?
Sure. Good evening again, Rebecca Hammack, Development Services Director. And I believe Nasa introduced herself earlier this evening to you. So Nasa is our new land use attorney in the county attorney's office. So she will be reviewing all of our agenda items and attending the meetings and advising the commission during the meetings. So the only item that I have for you this evening is Tammy, the clerk to the board, did send out some additional materials to help guide you in your roles and responsibilities on the Planning and Zoning Commission, since we do have some new members. So a lot of these are links to the different sections in the code that talk about the Planning and Zoning Commission, talk about the local planning agency, and we also included a copy of the Florida statutes for the local planning agency. And so your role as the Planning and Zoning Commission, you act as the local planning agency when you're reviewing and making recommendations regarding the comprehensive plan map amendments. And then otherwise, when you're acting on quasi-judicial matters, you are the Planning and Zoning Commission when you're reviewing rezonings and special exception requests. So we just wanted to provide some additional material just for the new members and just as a refresher for any of the existing members. And we are hoping to do a orientation for the new members and training and ethics training, hopefully in April. That's our goal. Our new planning division manager, who I introduced at the last meeting, Dale Hall, he will be organizing and coordinating that training. So.
Rebecca, I thought you said that you had somebody new that was going to have to.
Yes.
Oh, that's
Dale. Yes.
I got it. Okay.
Yes, Dale, he's our new planning division manager. And so at the next meeting, he will be taking this seat. So, but do you have any questions for me this evening?
Any questions on the board?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for providing that information. That was excellent.
Yes, thank you so much.
Sent out. Great. All right. Anything further from the board to discuss? Hearing none, meeting adjourned.